Hello and welcome back to the channel. I've got another update for the Crusade list, for the Space Wolves Crusade list. In fact, this is probably one of the last ones because I'm sort of coming to an end of this particular project and thinking about what my next project is going to be. But the good news was I did get a chance to get some more games in. So we're now up to 12 games played total with the Space Wolves, and one game in a particularly, I won't say particularly unusual, but unusual for me way, and certainly unusual for this channel. So, as I mentioned in the last video, for a while I was actually in the US for Adepticon and got stuck there because of COVID. And I actually managed to get a game in using Tabletop Simulator. If you're not familiar with Tabletop Simulator, it's a program available through Steam, which allows you to simulate a multitude of board and card games. You can sort of bring your own content as well. It doesn't do any of the rules for you. It's basically just a 3D engine used to represent the board on the table. And in fact, a number of people have worked very hard to import a lot of content from Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar into Tabletop Simulator so that you can play it here. And because I was in the US in hotels and one of my friends in Australia wanted to continue playing, we actually set up to have a game via TTS online, which was... it was his first time using it. I've used it before a few times, but yeah, he actually found it quite enjoyable. It seemed to work pretty well for us. So we did, obviously, my Space Wolves, and he was getting into Beast Snagger Boys as an Orc army, and so he wanted to sort of give it a trial run, and so we set up a game on TTS. So just 25 paddle, he brought along a Beast Boss, some Beast Snagger Boys, and 2 groups of Squeakhog Boys. Now, I've never fought these things before. I've obviously fought orcs before, but this is my first experience with the new Beast Snagger Boys. So we had the same mission that I described a couple of episodes ago against Black Templars, where there were 2 objective markers in the middle of the table, and it came down to holding those and also doing an action on those. And in fact, this is actually the second time playing that mission, and the second time that mission has resulted in a draw. And once again, having each side having units left at the end of the game, just not being able to get over and deal with each other because of range, and the fact having to go and deal with the other side would result in leaving your own marker and therefore losing the game. So I think at the end of the game, I had my assault intercessors left, and he had some of his Squeakhog boys left, and they just held their objectives on the side of the table, and the game came out to a draw. This was my first mission, or my first game using the aggressors. Unfortunately, I managed to get them right across the board for a first turn charge, thanks to my captain's aura of advance and charge. But I also did the same thing with my assault intercessors. Fought with the assault intercessors first, and then the aggressors got interrupted and all got killed to a man before they had a chance to actually strike back. So, a bit of an unfortunate outcome there, but I did finally get a chance to get the Dreadnought up to heroic level because of this game. The extra XP from this game got him the last bit he needed to get to 31 XP, which is heroic. So I'm glad we had a chance to play this game. It was really good to do while I was stuck in a hotel for so long. And I would thoroughly recommend, if you haven't tried out Tabletop Simulator or TTS, get it from Steam, and there are Discord groups to help you set up the 40k and Age of Sigmar games inside the TTS environment. So great to play with your friends, especially if they're in places where you can no longer play them easily, like they moved in a state or to another country, for example, or you just have friends in another country. It's a great way to play. Alright, so then I got back to Australia, and we got together for a 3-game day. And the first game was against my friend Mike's Tyranid army. So Mike, you'd be familiar with this channel, usually has brought along Custodes. He's a very big Tyranid, he's been a big Tyranid player for a long time. He was waiting for the new codex. In fact, at the time of recording, the Tyranid Codex still hasn't come out in Australia. It's been delayed because of shipping issues. And in fact, at the time this game was played, it hadn't come out in general, but it had been leaked to the internet. So Mike wanted to have a try of the new Tyranid's Codex, and so he brought along 50 power level worth of stuff. And in the first game, we decided to just go for 25. So he had a Hive Tyrant. He doesn't like the Winged Hive Tyrant. He's only going to use the Ground Hive Tyrant just because of the difference in toughness. And then he also had a group of Tyrant Guard, which have the Bodyguard special rule. They prevent you from being able to attack the Hive Tyrant if they're nearby. and then also a unit of 20 termagants with flesh borers. So he had brought along some other pretty tough models. He brought along some Tyranid warriors. He brought along a Maliceptor, which, if you haven't seen the new Tyranid's Codex rules, is absolutely ridiculous. It can, for 200 and something points, it can completely outdo Magnus the Red in the psychic phase, averaging like 10 to 15 mortal wounds per psychic phase. Yeah, absolutely incredible. But he didn't bring it in for this particular game, so he just had the Hive Tyrant Guard, and Termagants. Now, he got the first turn, and Mike got extremely unlucky with his first turn. So I think that overall, he's shooting, the only shooting he really had was the Termagants, Flesh Borers, and then the Hive Tyrant's Heavy Venom Cannon. And he fired the Heavy Venom Cannon at my Wolfen. So I had the Wolfen, I had the Assault Intercessors, I had the Captain, the Lieutenant, Private Lieutenant, and I also brought the Hounds of Morkai along. Once again, Tyranids are a psychic army, so I thought he's a good chance to give the Hounds a try. So his first turn, he managed to kill one Wolfen with the Heavy Venom Cannon, that was it, and did absolutely nothing with the Flesh Borer attacks from the Termagants. I got quite lucky with saves, and then he tried to charge everything in, and the only thing which got in on the charge was the Hive Tyrant, which charged the Wolfen. I was able to heroically intervene with both the Captain and the Lieutenant's Armour of Rust knocked the Hive Tyrant down the order of operations, because he's got the make your opponent fight last. The Hive Tyrant had fight first, which meant he became fight normally, and I was able to take some heavy wounds off the Hive Tyrant straight away by having one of my units fight with the Wolfen, and then he did manage to kill the Captain and Lieutenant in response. Sorry, I also had my Librarian here, but the Librarian wasn't in that combat. So he did kill the two characters in response, but he was down to like 3 wounds left, or 2 wounds left, and it was just, the meat was taken out of the Hive Tyrant pretty early on. And then I got my first turn. I pulled the Wolfen out and then charged them into the Hive Guard because they can, because of my upgrades. I had the Librarian smite the Hive Tyrant off the board, and then the Hounds of Morkai charged into the Termagants and started to wreck them pretty heavily in combat, because the Termagants don't have great melee capability. I didn't do as well as I would have hoped with the 3 remaining Wolfen into the Hive Guard. I did kill one, but I had some poor rolling, and they were able to kill the Wolfen in response. But by this time, the Hounds of Morkai had mopped up the remainder of the Termagants, and my Assault Intercessors charged into the 2 remaining Hive Guard and butchered them. So it was a pretty clean victory for me all up. I think the Hive Guard did manage to kill the Librarian while moving across the board, but in any case, it was a pretty clear victory for me. Surprising, given how powerful the Tyranids Codex looked, but I think just Mike's first turn really screwed him in terms of his poor rolls with both the shooting and then also getting charges in, because if he'd gotten more units into that initial charge, he could have done a lot more damage. But this is actually the first game I remembered that Wolfen have the ability to fight on death. So they have their Death Frenzy special rule, which means if you do kill them, they still get to fight before they are removed from the board. This was Mike's first outing with the new Tyranids. He did play a game subsequent to this, which I haven't shown here because it's not part of the Space Wolves, but the second game of the day was Mike fought his Tyranids against Steve's Orcs, and in that case he took the Maliceptor. So he had a Maliceptor, he had the same Hive Tyrant, he had some Tyranid warriors, and he had some Raveners against basically the same Squig High army that Steve used on TTS a few weeks earlier. Even though Steve got the first turn and charged in and killed the Tyranid warriors and all but one Ravener in the first turn, just the psychic onslaught from that Maliceptor, he lost both his Squig Hog boys very early on, and the Heavy Venom Cannon did some work as well from the Hive Tyrant. Yeah, Steve just lost too many forces early on. He just couldn't deal with the 2 monsters that Mike had, being the Hive Tyrant and the Maliceptor. I mean, the Maliceptor is Toughness 8, I think 14 or 15 wounds, 2+ save with a 4+ invul, and because he's playing High Fleet Leviathan, none of his Synapse creatures can be wounded on anything less than a 4. So, Steve just didn't have the goods to deal with those two monsters, and Mike was able to sweep up. Steve was in it for a good long while because he was playing the mission. It was one of the missions where when you claim an objective, even if you move away, it stays claimed. So we were trying to talk through in the last couple of turns of the game, like I did go to turn 5, whether there was some way that Steve could just make Mike split up his two monsters and not be able to get to enough objectives in time. It was a bit of a Hail Mary play, but in the end, Mike still won the game. But we talked through it afterwards, and there was a particular set of circumstances that Steve could have gone through to at least get a draw, maybe get a win, depending on what happened in the last turn. But it would have just been, he still would have been butchered. It just would have been on points alone. But in the end, we got a win for the Tyranids. Then third game of the day, Steve and I played again. Once again, his exact same list: the Squig Boss, the Beast Snagger boys, the Squig Hog boys. Although he had at this point in time worked out a relic for his warlord, so he gave him the Beast Hide Mantle, which gives him a 5+ Feel No Pain. And I, just because I had those models down there, I used the exact same models I used against Mike. So I had Captain, Lieutenant, Librarian, there's 3 characters in a patrol. I just remember how I did. Maybe the term was, I don't remember anyway. I certainly had the Assaulters, and I had the Hounds of Morkai, despite it not being a psychic army. So, I could use 3 characters because lieutenants can be used slotless. That's right. If you set up in the right way. So, this battle went a bit differently. So, the key thing here is that so Steve won the game. I'll say first off, by tabling basically. But what really did it was that 5+ Feel No Pain on the Beast Boss. Yeah, Steve just could not roll anything less than a 5 when it came to the Feel No Pains, or at least towards the end. So quite early on, we got I got the Beast Boss down to 1 wound remaining with my characters, then every subsequent wound that got thrown at the Beast Boss, he managed to 5+ Feel No Pain. In fact, the last turn of the game was pretty epic because he had left his Beast Boss on 1 wound and a single Squig Hog boy, and I had left just the Sergeant of my Intercessors, not the Assault Intercessors, the regular Intercessors with the Power Fist. So it wasn't Assault Intercessors, that's right, because I had the Power Fist. So I had the Thunder Hammer and the Hand Flamer. So I know the last turn, so I used the Hand Flamer on the Beast Boss. Miraculously got 2 wounds, and he failed both saves, but then made both 5+ Feel No Pains. Then I charged both units because they were both next to each other. So if I could split my attacks up and kill both the Squig Hog boy and the Beast Boss, then I could win the game. And I killed the Squig Hog boy, no problem. I managed to get 2 wounding hits on the Beast Boss. He made 1 save, so he would take 3 wounds from a Thunder Hammer. So he needed to make all 3 5+, and of course he made all 3 5+. And his retaliatory hit from the Beast Boss killed my my Sergeant, and I therefore lost the game. But I think all told, the Beast Boss made 7 5+ Feel No Pains on 1 wound remaining from various hits. So if you ever consider it as a trait, it really, really can pay off. Sometimes it doesn't go as well, but this particular game, it absolutely was the linchpin that won Steve the game. So look, all told, that was a really fun day because Space Wolves won 1 game, Tyranids won 1 game, Orcs won 1 game. Playing 3 games in a day is one of the best things about Crusade. When you're playing 25 paddle games, you can knock over a game in an hour. So we can get together and do that, and that was a lot of fun. I did have some photographs from this game. I didn't put them here. I just used this Games Workshop image of the Beast Boss, because Steve in person had a lot of proxies. So it would have looked weird having pictures of Space Marine Outriders representing Squig Hog boys, for example. So Steve has got the models. He's just, building them, painting them up. Hence why there's no photographs from this particular game. So, how is the Crusade list looking following these games? So first off, we're going to the battle at 14 there with the captain. No extra kills, but I do give him mark for greatness in that game on TTS because his ability to get the other forces into melee in the first turn is really great. It didn't pay off for the aggressors, as I mentioned before, but it's still such a great ability, and so I got him up to 23 XP. So no changes here. He didn't go up a level. Didn't get any kills. Just played the game and got the mark for greatness. Over to the Librarian, sorry. So he got the psychic kill of the Hive Tyrant, which was great, although he didn't survive that particular battle. He didn't level up, but was still doing pretty well. This model, as far as I'm concerned, is a bit cursed because I gave him, when I first built him, the Storm's Eye, which is a relic which allows him to, anytime he gets off one of the Space Wolf, the first time in a turn he gets off a Space Wolf Discipline power, on a 4+, he does a mortal wound to the closest unit within 12 inches. And any time I get to the point I'm within 12 inches, he just cannot get off those Space Wolf psychic powers. And then it's funny comparing that now with the Maleceptor, which is this one I mentioned before from Tyranids, where every time it uses a power, not the first time in a turn, every time it uses a power, there is no roll. It just does an extra 3 mortal wounds to the closest unit within 12 inches. So just compare that to roll a dice for a 50 chance of 1 on 1 power versus on every power, you just get an extra 3. And of course, my thing's a relic, but I mean, models aren't built around that sort of level of consistency, but it's funny to compare those different rules anyway. Okay, so on to the Blood Claws. They weren't played in any of these games, so that there's no change there. But the Assault Intercessors, they were played in all 3. And they got a number of kills. They got the Beast Boss in the first game. They got the 2 Squeakhog Boy squad. Sorry, 2 Squeakhog Boys in the first game, and then one in the next game we did against the Orcs. They got the Hive Guard, and they got the Beast Snagger Boys in the last game too. So yeah, they suddenly somersaulted up to 35 XP, making them my first heroic unit. And they've now picked up Veteran Warriors, so they've got 2+ weapon skill. They re-roll ones to hit, and they're also fast moving. So yeah, a lot of Crusade points to put on the table. Straight away 3 Crusade points, but yeah, a really powerful unit now for doing the deed in melee. Haven't played with the Longclaws again since those first couple of games. I will play them again. They've always managed to underwhelm, but I'm sure I'll find a way to use them again in the future. Didn't use the bikers this time, the Swift Claws, but they're still there waiting for the next chance. The Wolfen did join one of those games. They were in the battle with the Tyranids, and look, they didn't get any extra kills this time, but they certainly, their resilience helped against the Hive Tyrant. They sort of kept the Hive Tyrant both in melee and in shooting, and then did some damage back, and then killed one of the Hive Guard before getting wiped out. But still, they were a really Lynch unit to have as well. The Dreadnought finally got his extra XP, bringing him up to heroic, and also got kills of both the Squeakhog Boy squad and Beast Snagger Boys in that TTS game. So he is also now heroic, which I was looking forward to because I put Fleshbane on his Great Axe, which gives it +1 damage. So the important thing there is that its sweep attack, or cleave, whatever it's called, I think it's scythe, is now damage 2. So I found this when I was using him against Brian's Black Templars, when I was fighting a big squad of 2 wound models in the form of the Crusade squad, or Crusader squad, that if I went for the sweep attack, only being 1 damage, even though it's strength 6, AP -3, it just wasn't getting through fast enough. But likewise, the heavy attack, which is damage like 6 + D3 or something like that, you get much less. You get only a few attacks. He's only got 4 attacks normally, 5 on the charge. So now by letting him have 10 attacks, strength 6, AP -3, 2 damage, he will really chew through that heavy infantry like Space Marines, for example. And so I'm looking forward to using him in a battle where he can actually experience that. The Thunderwolf Cavalry didn't get a run in this set of 3 games, but they're still there waiting for the next game. The Lieutenant, he got 2 extra battles in, and that got him up to 6 XP, so he is now blooded. And I also gave him the +1 damage on the Power Axe because, once again, being only 1 damage, when a lot of my opponents are things like Space Marines, multi-wound models basically, I thought it beneficial to give him the now the 2 damage Power Axe. Made that a lot, or should make that a lot better going forward. I didn't use the Wolfguard Terminators. I do want to use these guys again because they did such a great job in that one battle they fought, but just at 9 power level, they're hard to justify in a 25 PL game. So if we do another 50 power level game, I'll definitely give these guys another run. Waiting for the opportunity to use these ones again. The Hounds of Morkai, look, I mean, once again, this is a unit that I never really expected to do a lot with. It was more I wanted to paint them up because they were a unique Space Wolf unit, and I wanted to try out that darker armor look as well. But I said I'll use them in any battle where there might be Psychers, even though I used them in one where there wasn't because I just had them with me at the time and they met at the points nicely. So they've now fought 3 battles. I did give them Mark for Greatness in the last game because they just helped tie up units, and also because in the second to last game I would have given it to them for killing all those Termagants, but there were other better units on the table. But these guys, for a 5 power level, they're I've never been a fan of Reavers in general, and unfortunately these guys lose the Reaver's Fear Aura, but overall, they did okay. They're now blooded, which means I've given them the reroll ones to hit. There wasn't much point in giving them the 2 weapon skill, Bladesman's Honours, because none of their weapons have minus to hit, so being Space Wolves, they're going to be on basically 2 pluses to hit in the charge phase anyway. So, I was more concerned with giving them those rerolls. I thought that would give them more benefit than the 2+ weapon skill, which will only work in the second and subsequent rounds of combat. Okay, the Aggressors have had 2 games so far, no kills. I mean, that first game against the Orcs on TTS, they got killed before they had a chance to do anything. They did some work with the Flamers in subsequent games, but just, they need to do some more to get some more XP. And then finally, only a single game played for the Intercessors. So just the XP for that. Now, I did use them in... which battle was it? I think it was the battle with the Orcs the first time around, and they got some good shooting off, but once they got engaged in melee combat, even with the Power Fist, they weren't that great. No, that's right. It was against the Tyranids. The Tyranids is where I actually used them. They were okay, but they did what they're supposed to do. They're a shooting force in a melee army. So good for objective battles anyway. And then I've added a new model to the list now. So I mentioned before I was going to work on a vehicle. So I've now added in a Stormwolf. So this one I've given it... So it comes with the las cannons by default and the twin Hellfrost cannon. But you've got an option of what to put on the side sponsons. So I put here the melter arrays. So it looks like it has 4 multi-melters. Because there's basically 2 multi-melters per side. So... You would hope you would get 8 shots. It's not. The melter arrays combined give you 2d3 shots, so between 2 and 6 shots. So not quite as powerful as 4 multi-melters, but still, its shooting is definitely anti-tank. The twin Hellfrost cannon does have a disperse mode, which I think is strength 6, AP -3, 1 damage, maybe, or a heavy mode, which is like strength 8, AP -4, 4 damage. I think by and large it's made for anti-tank, but what it's also made for is carrying, it can carry Wolfen, so it's actually like a flying Land Raider, although it's only strength 7, but it has got the Machine Spirit tag, which means you can use Machine Spirit Resurgent on it and allow it to fire on full profile even when it's damaged. It being 16 power level, it's going to have a hard time finding a game up. It doesn't want to be going into 25 power level games. But I will find a way to use this because I think this thing with a squad of Wolfen inside, that's total of 22 power level, gives mobility, it gives anti-tank, and then when the Wolfen drop, it gives some pretty hefty close combat. So overall, it was a fun model to paint. I painted it in pieces and then put it all together at the end. Whether this one is, it's hard to tell in this picture, but I did do some basic chipping and weathering. I think I would like to do more. It's just I didn't really know how to do chipping around the gold details. So I sort of did it more around where there was definite edges on the blue colour, and like the leading edges of wings, for example. But yeah, I need to get a better idea about how I want to chip it properly before I go and do a little bit more. I need to chip the red too. I didn't get the red parts properly weathered up, which means they look incongruously clean against the parts of the Space Wolf blue, Space Wolf grey, which are chipped up. I also enjoyed doing the glowing runes the same way I did with the Dreadnought. So it's got those on the sides of the frost cannon, also on the side sponsons. So I feel like I've got a good working manner for doing Space Wolf glowing runes, which is great now that I'm coming towards the end of the project. So overall, we're now seeing 100 power level for the Space Wolf army. This would feel like a good place to stop, but I really do want to add in a Land Raider, only because I like the idea of using the additional accessories from the Stormwolf to make a Land Raider look like a Space Wolf Land Raider, to give it you know, sort of iconography which makes it clearly a Space Wolf Land Raider. So yeah, here you can see I've got 2 units now to heroic. I've got a couple of units of battle hardened. Otherwise, you know, we've got just battle ready and blooded units. But yeah, the Stormwolf is now joined. I've also had an invite to a not a tournament, like a local games day at a store where it will be like multiple rounds. And one of the things I like about Crusade is that it's actually possible to take your Crusade army and play it outside of the Crusade setting and then still get XP and advancement for that. So obviously when you take your Crusade army into a third party game, or you know, a non-Crusade game, they don't get all their upgrades. They don't get, you can't have, you know, multiple warlord traits and that, but you can use the same units and you can record the kills and you can still play for agendas, which don't affect the outcome of the actual battle. And then afterwards you can come back and say, okay, well, this is how that worked out in terms of a Crusade match, and effectively you played Crusade while playing regular 40k. So I'm thinking that I will take along the Space Wolves for that. They're calling it Chillhammer. So Chillhammer means that it's 1,500 points Crusade, patrol only. So that really heavily limits your options because you're limited to the, you know, was it 2 HQ, 3 troops, and then 2 everything else. So 2 elite, 2 fast attack, 2 heavy, and 2 flyers. And then whatever dedicated transports. Not that there's any dedicated transports in this list. But yeah, so I will probably take the Space Wolves along there and then see how they do in some more general points-based 40k play against other opponents. Because really, you've seen all these games I've played, but they've only been against a handful of opponents so far. So what's next? I will paint up that Land Raider Redeemer, you know, report on how I did at the Chillhammer event, but then really the Space Wolves will be done. I can, you know, put them on display somewhere and only pull them out when friends say, hey, I wonder if those Space Wolves will go, you know. But I can say, here, I've got this nicely fully painted army. But then my next thing will be I'll be starting a new series to focus on the Eldari, because I have resisted starting to paint or build in any major quantity these Eldari forces while I get the Space Wolves finished. But, you know, I've really, really enjoyed this project and presenting it on YouTube. So I will look to do the same again with the Eldari. So hopefully you have enjoyed this episode of the series, the penultimate episode. I will definitely say now, and hopefully you join me for the final one. And then if you're interested, you will come along and check out my next project as well. But thanks again for watching. Any comments or questions, please do feel free to post them on YouTube and I will respond. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.